Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to take a journey, not to a distant land, but inward to the battlefield within each of us. The Shaolin monks, known for their martial arts mastery, teach us that the greatest battles are not fought with fists or weapons, but with the enemies hidden in our own minds. Shaolin philosophy, rooted in Zen Buddhism and centuries of discipline, shows us that our inner enemies, fear, doubt, anger, ego, laziness, and attachment, are more dangerous than any opponent in the ring. Why? Because they limit our potential, poison our peace, and distort our perception of the world. First step to overcoming these enemies is awareness. A Shaolin monk trains not just the body, but also the mind. They watch their thoughts the way a warrior watches an opponent, without distraction, without judgment. Then comes discipline, daily practice, intentional living, and mindful breathing are not rituals. They are weapons. They sharpen the mind, calm the heart, and prepare the spirit. Discipline does not restrict you. It frees you from chaos. Another pillar is stillness. In silence, you confront your deepest fears. In stillness, you find clarity. The Shaolin monk does not react blindly. He responds with calm wisdom. This is how we disarm anger and ego, not by suppression, by understanding. Lastly, we must let go. The Shaolin path teaches non-attachment. Holding on to pride, pain, or the need to control only feeds the inner enemy. Letting go is not weakness. It's a higher strength. So ask yourself, what inner enemy are you feeding? Fear? Laziness, ego? With Shaolin wisdom, we don't fight these enemies with brute force. We dissolve them with awareness, discipline, stillness, and compassion. In the Shaolin tradition, before a warrior can master the external world, he must first face the battles within. These inner enemies, such as fear, doubt, anger, pride, laziness, and attachment, are subtle, deceptive, and deeply rooted in the human experience. Unlike physical opponents, they do not announce themselves or take visible form. Instead, they operate quietly in the background, influencing decisions, distorting reality, and preventing growth. That's why the Shaolin monk begins his training not by fighting others, but by learning to recognize and confront the shadows in his own mind. Fear, for instance, is one of the most paralyzing forces. It disguises itself as caution or overthinking. It whispers doubts that stop you from taking meaningful risks or stepping into new opportunities. Shaolin philosophy teaches that fear is not something to run from, but to examine. Where does it come from? What belief is feeding it? Only by identifying it clearly can you begin to work through it. Then there is anger, a powerful emotion that can either destroy or be transformed into motivation. Anger clouds judgment and fosters aggression, but the Shaolin path emphasizes that anger is not the enemy itself. It's a messenger. It tells us that something inside us feels threatened or disrespected. The monk learns to observe anger, understand its source, and then choose a conscious response instead of a reactive outburst. Doubt, too, is a common inner enemy. It erodes confidence and creates hesitation. Shaolin practitioner recognizes doubt as the voice of the ego afraid to fail. Rather than letting it dominate the mind, the monk trains to strengthen inner certainty through self-discipline and experience. Doubt is not silenced by words, it is weakened by action. Laziness, or spiritual inertia, is another subtle yet dangerous force. It often masquerades as rest or comfort, but can lead to stagnation if unchecked. Shaolin monks counteract this with daily rituals, rigorous schedules, and purposeful movement. They teach that energy follows purpose, and without purpose, laziness thrives. Pride and attachment are also formidable enemies. Pride blinds us to our weaknesses and closes the door to learning. Attachment binds us to outcomes, relationships, identities, and material things in ways that create suffering when change inevitably comes. Shaolin path is not about denial, but about detachment, a deep internal freedom from clinging. To truly begin the process of transformation, one must first shine a light on these internal obstacles. Shaolin monk becomes a vigilant observer of his own mind, scanning for signs of fear, anger, doubt, and the rest, not to judge or suppress them, but to understand and transcend them, is not a one-time act but a lifelong discipline. In this way, identifying the inner enemies becomes the first and most essential step on the road to self-mastery and peace. In Shaolin philosophy, awareness is not just a passive state. It is an active force, the first and most essential weapon in the warrior's inner arsenal. Before a monk throws a single punch or learns a single stance, he is taught to watch not just his surroundings, but his thoughts, his breath, his emotions, and his reactions. This kind of awareness, deep, disciplined, and continuous, is the foundation upon which all spiritual and martial mastery is built. The Shaolin monk trains to become the observer of his own mind. He learns to detach slightly from the flow of thoughts and to recognize them for what they are, a temporary, shifting expressions of inner conditions. In this way, awareness becomes a light that reveals the hidden motivations behind behavior. Why did I get angry just now? Why do I feel afraid? What story am I believing in this moment? Through this observation, we begin to see patterns, the repeated loops of fear, the default reactions, the mental habits we've unknowingly strengthened over time. Awareness allows us to identify these mental loops before they take control. Gives us a moment of pause, a sliver of space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies power, the power to choose a different action, a more conscious one. Without awareness, we react from habit. With awareness, we respond from understanding. This kind of awareness is cultivated through practices like meditation, breathwork, and movement training. For Shaolin monks, every moment becomes an opportunity for mindfulness. Whether eating, walking, or performing martial forms, they train themselves to be fully present. This attention to the now is not just spiritual, it is practical. In combat, a moment of distraction can mean defeat. In life, a lack of awareness can lead to poor decisions, broken relationships, and suffering. But awareness is not always comfortable. When we begin to truly watch ourselves, we might encounter unpleasant truths, envy, insecurity, resentment. Is why many people avoid deep self-awareness. It requires courage. But the Shaolin path teaches that real strength comes not from avoiding discomfort, but from facing it directly. Only by seeing clearly can we begin to change. Importantly, awareness is not judgment. The monk does not scold himself for feeling anger or fear. He simply notices it, accepts it, and explores it with curiosity. This non-judgmental attention is key. When we judge ourselves harshly, we reinforce shame and resistance. But when we observe ourselves with openness, transformation becomes possible. Shaolin awareness also extends outward. The mindful warrior is alert to the energies of others, the rhythms of nature, subtle cues in a room. This external awareness is sharpened only when internal awareness is developed. In essence, the more we know our own minds, the better we understand the world around us. So, in the Shaolin way, awareness is not optional. It is the first line of defense against the inner enemies. Without it, we are like blindfolded fighters swinging wildly. With it, we become precise, centered, and present, able to detect the stirrings of ego or fear the moment they arise, and equipped to meet them with calm clarity. Discipline is the heartbeat of the Shaolin path. Without it, awareness fades, inner enemies gain ground, and progress halts. In Shaolin philosophy, training is not a temporary phase or a motivational surge. It is a daily commitment, a lifestyle rooted in consistency, patience, and purpose. Shaolin monk does not train when it is convenient or when he feels inspired. He trains because training itself is the path to inner mastery. Daily discipline is not limited to martial arts. In fact, Physical routines are only one layer of a much deeper practice. True discipline, in the Shaolin sense, is about governing one's energy, one's mind, and one's emotions across all areas of life. The practice of doing what needs to be done, especially when we don't feel like doing it. It is choosing structure over chaos, presence over distraction, and effort over comfort. One of the core reasons why discipline is vital is because the inner enemies, such as laziness, fear, doubt, and ego, do not show up all at once. They creep in slowly like water seeping through cracks. Without daily practice to maintain mental clarity and emotional strength, these forces begin to dominate. Laziness tells you to rest today and train tomorrow. Fear tells you to wait until you're ready. Ego convinces you that you're already better than others. Only discipline cuts through these lies. For a Shaolin monk, discipline starts from the moment he wakes. There are specific rituals for rising, breathing, stretching, meditating, and moving. These rituals are not about perfection. They are about repetition. By training every day, the monk sends a message to his subconscious mind, I am in control. And over time, this consistency transforms not only the body but the mind. Where there was once resistance, there is now flow. Where there was once chaos, there is now order. Importantly, Shaolin discipline is rooted in intention, not punishment. It is not about forcing oneself to exhaustion or following rules for the sake of rules. It is about aligning daily actions with a deeper purpose. When discipline is connected to meaning, it becomes fuel rather than a burden. The monk trains because every punch, every breath, every repetition brings him closer to balance, strength, and clarity. There is no wasted movement, no wasted moment. Modern life is full of distractions, devices, noise, social pressure. And each of these is an opportunity to drift from discipline. Shaolin philosophy teaches us to return to our center through practice. Disciplined mind becomes like a still lake, unmoved by storms, undisturbed by ripples. And this inner stillness can only be achieved through the rhythm of repetition. Moreover, discipline builds resilience, conditions the mind and body to endure discomfort without breaking. When a Shaolin monk holds a difficult stance for long minutes, he is not just training muscles. He is training patience, willpower, and the ability to stay present despite discomfort. This is how discipline becomes a form of liberation. It frees us from the grip of impulsiveness and emotional chaos. In essence, discipline is the bridge between intention and transformation. Wanting change is not enough. Understanding your inner enemies is not enough. Even awareness without action is incomplete. Shaolin path demands that we show up every day without excuses and do the work one breath at a time. In a world that prizes speed, noise, and constant activity, the Shaolin path reminds us of a forgotten truth. Stillness is power. Silence is not emptiness. It is clarity. While the outside world screams for our attention, the inner world speaks in whispers. To hear it, we must learn to slow down, to pause, and to become still. Stillness in Shaolin philosophy is not simply the absence of movement. It is the active presence of awareness. When a Shaolin monk sits in meditation, he is not doing nothing. He is doing the most important work of all, confronting the mind. He is sitting with every thought, every emotion, every distraction. He is watching the storm without being swept away by it. Internal practice builds a kind of strength that no physical training can replicate, the strength to remain grounded when life becomes chaotic. Silence is its partner. In silence, strip away the external noise, the opinions of others, the flood of digital information, the constant narrative we feed ourselves. What remains is truth. Silence reveals what we've been avoiding, our fears, our longings, our regrets. Through silence that we begin to understand the deeper movements of the heart and mind. The Shaolin monk embraces silence not as an escape, but as a teacher. Stillness also teaches us patience. In stillness, no immediate reward, no dopamine hit, no applause. It is a place of discomfort for many, especially in modern life where we are conditioned to equate action with productivity. The Shaolin tradition values non-action as a source of strength. Wu Wei, the Taoist principle of effortless action, teaches that sometimes the most powerful choice is to do nothing. Simply to observe, to wait, to allow life to unfold without interference. In this way, stillness becomes an act of deep trust in the natural flow of things. Emotionally, stillness gives us space to feel without reacting. When anger arises, undisciplined mind explodes. When fear arises, it retreats. But the still mind observes both without being controlled. The monk does not suppress emotion, he holds space for it. He allows it to rise and fall like waves, never forgetting that he is the ocean beneath them. Stillness also helps us reclaim our energy. Much of our exhaustion does not come from physical activity, but from mental restlessness. Racing thoughts, constant stimulation, overthinking, these drain us more than any labor. By practicing stillness, even for a few minutes each day, we return to our natural rhythm. We reconnect with breath, with presence, with life itself. Replenishment is essential for sustaining clarity and discipline in the long term. And there is a sacredness to silence. In silence, the mind can touch something beyond intellect, something intuitive, timeless, and peaceful. Shaolin monk does not seek to explain everything. He learns to sit in mystery, to listen to the silence between words, to trust the wisdom that arises when the ego quiets. In these moments of deep stillness that true insights appear, not forced, but revealed. In training, stillness is just as important as movement. Between strikes, there is pause. Between breaths, there is space. In the same way, between life's events, we need stillness to process, to realign, to heal. The body may rest, but the spirit deepens. The mind may be quiet, but awareness sharpens. Through stillness, we discover who we are beneath the noise. One of the most profound teachings in Shaolin philosophy is the understanding that true power lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself, specifically your reactions. While we may not be able to control every event, person, or circumstance around us, we always have the ability to choose how we respond. This choice, this space between stimulus and reaction, is where mastery is born. Shaolin monk trains his entire life, not just to defend or strike with precision, but to develop the inner composure to remain unmoved when provoked. He is not cold or detached. Rather, he is deeply in touch with his emotions, but not ruled by them. He does not lash out in anger, crumble in fear, or react impulsively when faced with difficulty. Instead, he pauses, he breathes, he observes, and only then does he respond with clarity, intention, and wisdom. Controlling reactions so essential, because every reaction we have, especially in moments of stress, reveals the condition of our inner world. If a small insult can trigger rage, or a minor setback can cause despair, it is not the world that is controlling us. It is our own unexamined mind. The Shaolin tradition emphasizes that the external world often acts as a mirror. What disturbs us on the outside is usually a reflection of something unresolved on the inside. Through mindfulness and repeated self-observation, the monk learns to identify the triggers that spark reactive behavior. He studies them, not with judgment but with curiosity. Why did that comment make me angry? Why do I feel defensive in this situation? Where did that reaction come from? In doing so, he dismantles the automatic patterns that so often govern human behavior. Controlling reactions does not mean suppressing feelings or becoming emotionally numb. It means becoming the master of your emotional energy, not its slave. A Shaolin warrior can feel anger, but he does not let it control his hands. He can feel fear, but he does not let it decide his next step. He holds space for the emotion to arise, acknowledges it, and then acts from a place of strength rather than reactivity. This principle also applies to everyday life, not just combat or high-stakes moments. How do you react when someone cuts you off in traffic? When someone criticizes you? When things don't go as planned? These small, seemingly insignificant reactions accumulate over time and shape your inner landscape. The person who cannot control their reactions is constantly at the mercy of others, their emotions tossed like a leaf in the wind. But the one who develops self-control walks with quiet strength, unshaken, self-possessed, and at peace. Developing this control requires practice. Meditation is one tool, helping slow the mind and create the space needed for conscious choice. Breathwork is another. The breath is always with us, and by returning to it in moments of stress, we anchor ourselves. Shaolin monk learns to breathe deeply and steadily in moments of intensity, calming the nervous system and returning to center. Martial training itself is a powerful discipline for this purpose. In sparring, one must learn to respond, not react. A reckless reaction can lead to injury or defeat. The monk trains to be alert but calm, fast but grounded. This training carries over into daily life, teaching patience in conflict, grace in adversity, and awareness in conversation. Ultimately, controlling your reactions is an act of deep respect for yourself and for others. It means recognizing that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you are always responsible for how you carry yourself through it. And that responsibility, once accepted, becomes a source of immense freedom. In Shaolin philosophy, suffering is not seen as a punishment or an unfortunate interruption to life. It is understood as one of life's greatest teachers. While most people spend their energy avoiding pain, Shaolin Path invites the practitioner to lean into it, study it, and extract its lessons. To suffer is to be human. To suffer consciously is to evolve. Suffering, whether physical, emotional, or mental, exposes our limitations, reveals where we are weak, where we resent, where we still cling to illusions. For the Shaolin monk, these revelations are sacred. He does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "This trying to teach me?" In doing so, he transforms suffering from something that breaks him into something that builds him. In the monastery, physical suffering is part of daily life. Hours of training push the body beyond its comfort zone. There is soreness, fatigue, even injury. But this is not mindless punishment. It is discipline with purpose. The body becomes stronger. The mind becomes sharper. Spirit becomes more resilient. The Shaolin monk learns to find stillness in the discomfort, to breathe through pain rather than resist it, to use each trial as a stepping stone toward mastery. Emotional suffering is treated with the same reverence. Loss, rejection, failure, loneliness, these are not enemies to be suppressed, but truths to be welcomed. Every painful experience strips away a layer of ego, a false identity, a misguided attachment. In this way, suffering purifies. It humbles the proud, strengthens the timid, and awakens the unaware. Through suffering, we learn compassion. A monk who has endured his own darkness can recognize it in others. He becomes less judgmental, more empathetic, more present. He understands that everyone carries burdens unseen, and this awareness deepens his humanity. It is only those who have walked through fire who can offer true warmth to others. Shaolin teachings often emphasize that resistance to suffering is what amplifies it. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, in many cases, is a choice. When we fight against what is, we increase our torment. When we accept pain as part of the path, as a necessary tool of growth, we lessen its grip on us. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means facing reality without denial or bitterness. Importantly, embracing suffering does not glorify it. The Shaolin monk does not seek out pain for its own sake. Rather, he understands that when it arrives, as it inevitably will, it has a role to play. He welcomes it like a stern teacher whose lessons are difficult but transformative. He does not shrink from it. He meets it with courage, curiosity, and presence. Approach to suffering also trains the mind to find meaning in adversity. The monk asks, how can this hardship make me stronger, more aware, more free? With this mindset, even the most painful experiences become fuel for inner evolution. Nothing is wasted. Every wound is a doorway to deeper wisdom. Suffering also builds patience. In a culture of instant gratification, the Shaolin way stands in contrast. Progress comes slowly. Growth is often invisible. The path is long and filled with obstacles. But the monk endures, not because he enjoys suffering, but because he has come to trust its value. He knows that on the other side of difficulty lies deeper peace, greater strength, and profound insight. Ultimately, to embrace suffering as a teacher is to live with open eyes and an open heart. It is to walk into life's storms not with fear, but with faith in one's capacity to learn, adapt, and emerge transformed. In the Shaolin tradition, the true measure of success is not how many battles one wins in the external world, how much peace one establishes within. Inner harmony, balance of mind, body, and spirit is considered more valuable than any outward achievement, recognition, or dominance. While the world may reward ambition, aggression, conquest, the Shaolin path points inward and asks a deeper question. Are you at peace with yourself? From the outside, a Shaolin monk may seem like a warrior capable of incredible feats of strength and discipline. But at the core of his training lies something subtler and more profound, the cultivation of stillness, clarity, and non-conflict within. In fact, the more advanced a monk becomes in martial arts, the less likely he is to use them. Why? Because true power does not come from defeating others. It comes from no longer needing to. Inner harmony is not a passive state of relaxation or the detachment. It is a dynamic balance between forces within us, between desire and discipline, between action and rest, between strength and softness. The Shaolin monk trains not to eliminate these forces, but to bring them into alignment. Seeks to understand himself so deeply that there is no longer inner conflict tearing him in different directions. This unity within becomes the source of his calm presence and unwavering focus. Outer victory often comes with ego, pride in one's strength, status, or superiority. But the Shaolin monk views ego as one of the most deceptive inner enemies. The moment we believe we are better than others, we lose connection to humility, compassion, and truth. Ego feeds on comparison and control, both of which are fragile and fleeting. Inner harmony, on the other hand, is rooted in self-awareness and self-acceptance. Cannot be taken away by circumstances or the opinions of others. Modern society often celebrates the outer victories: wealth, status, fame, competition won. Yet many who have won externally live with deep inner unrest, anxiety, insecurity, and constant striving. The Shaolin path teaches that if you conquer the world but remain a prisoner to your emotions, your fears, or your habits, you have gained nothing of lasting value. Better to sit in quiet harmony than to stand on a pedestal built on inner chaos. Achieving inner harmony requires deliberate effort. The monk practices meditation not to escape life, but to understand it. He breathes deeply to calm the nervous system, to center the mind, and to slow down reactive thoughts. He trains the body not just for strength, but for grace, control, and alignment with breath and intention. This integration of mind, body, and spirit is what creates the deep sense of harmony he carries into every action. Harmony also means living in accordance with nature and universal principles. Shaolin monk observes the Tao, the natural way, and learns to flow with it rather than resist. He watches how rivers bend around rocks, how trees bend in the wind, how seasons change without resistance. In this way, he learns that true strength is not rigid. It is adaptable, fluid, and centered. When inner harmony is cultivated, it changes the way we interact with the world. We no longer need to dominate conversations, prove our worth, or chase validation. We act from a place of calm intention rather than an anxiety. We make choices not from impulse, but from inner alignment. This centered presence influences others more deeply than force ever could. Ultimately, cultivating inner harmony does not mean avoiding the world or its challenges. Rather, it means engaging with life from a place of rootedness, balance, and clarity. It means becoming so aligned within yourself that external victories or losses no longer define your peace. You carry your sanctuary with you, unchanging, unshakable, and free. At the heart of Shaolin philosophy lies a powerful paradox. Though the path is one of inner mastery and self-cultivation, it is never meant to end with the self. True strength, once attained, must be used not to dominate or isolate, but to uplift, protect, and serve. The Shaolin monk trains relentlessly not to become superior, but to become of greater service to the world. In this way, the journey inward becomes a bridge to the world around us. Service, in the Shaolin tradition, not charity born from guilt or obligation, it is a natural expression of wisdom and compassion working together. When a person sees clearly, beyond ego, beyond pride, beyond fear, they recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. Suffering of one is the suffering of all. The peace of one ripples outward. And so, the monk learns that to heal the world, he must first master himself, and then turn that mastery into action. Compassion, however, is not weakness, not sentimentality or the inability to draw boundaries. Shaolin compassion is fierce and rooted. It sees clearly what is needed in the moment. Sometimes it offers kindness, other times truth. Sometimes it gives space, other times takes bold action. Compassion means showing up fully for others without losing oneself in the process. It means listening not only with the ears but with the heart. It means helping not from a place of superiority, from shared humanity. Wisdom, in turn, ensures that service is skillful and effective. It asks what is truly needed here, what will bring long-term benefit, not just immediate relief. Am I acting from clarity or from my own unresolved emotions? The Shaolin monk does not rush to rescue or interfere. He serves from stillness. His wisdom allows him to see the deeper causes of suffering, to recognize the patterns that keep people trapped, and to respond with care, not compulsion. This balance of compassion and wisdom creates what the Shaolin tradition calls right action. Acts that come from alignment, awareness, and love. Whether it's teaching a student, helping a stranger, or simply offering a presence of calm in chaotic times, right action uplifts without attachment to the outcome. The monk does not serve to be praised or recognized. He serves because it is natural, because when the heart is clear, service flows effortlessly. Serving others also dissolves the illusion of separateness. One of the deepest inner enemies is isolation, the belief that we are alone. We must protect ourselves from the world. But service opens the gates of connection. When we help others, we help ourselves. When we give freely, we are filled. In giving attention, support, and presence, we come home to our shared humanity. In practice, this can take many forms. A Shaolin monk may teach martial arts to young people in need of discipline and self-respect. He may offer guidance to those lost in anger or fear. He may simply live in such a way that others feel more peaceful in his presence. No act is too small when done with pure intention. A word, a gesture, a moment of listening can shift the course of someone's day or life. And this, ultimately, is where the Shaolin path becomes complete. All the training, all the meditation, all the discipline, it is not just for personal gain. It is to become a vessel through which peace, strength, and wisdom can flow into the world. As the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the monk is ready, he becomes the teacher. The path begins with the self, but it ends in service. So, as we reflect on these timeless teachings from the Shaolin tradition, let us remember that the true battlefield is not out there in the world, but within ourselves. Our anger, our fear, our doubt are the inner enemies that weaken our spirit and cloud our judgment. But through discipline, stillness, compassion, and courage, we can rise above them. The journey is not easy, it is not quick, but it is worthy. Because when we master the self, we no longer need to conquer anything else. We become free, not from challenges, but from being controlled by them. We become calm in chaos, strong in adversity, humble in victory, and graceful in defeat. Shaolin path does not promise comfort. It promises clarity. It does not promise avoidance of suffering, but the transformation of it. And above all, it reminds us that greatness is not found in power over others, in peace within ourselves. So walk your path with presence. Face your inner enemies with courage, and live each moment as a warrior of stillness, wisdom, and compassion. Thank you